ho, ho, ho. Welcome to the pIBD Digest. Yes, the podcast all about Crohn's and colitis in children and young people. I'm told your wonderful hosts, Dr. Chris Bakewell and Dr. Tracy Coelho, will be unwrapping the latest in clinical care and research. And this is carefully curated to support professionals and families alike. And I can confirm that no reindeer was harmed in the making of this episode. Ho, ho, ho.
Just a reminder, the views shared are for educational purposes only and do not constitute medical advice. Always consult your own healthcare professional.
Yes, thank you. Grinch, always so cheerful. Now, sit back, grab a mince pie, maybe a cup of something warm, and enjoy the episode. And of course, have a very Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho!
Goedenavond, Chris. Ik maak me klaar voor Christmas.
Hi Tracy, based on that opening, I think I need to ask, is everything okay? I'm sort of slightly worried that the pre-Christmas prep has melted your brain into festive gobbledygook.
Excuse me, Christopher. That was my finest Dutch accent. I was just asking if you're getting ready for Christmas.
Okay, well, debatable whether we're ready for Christmas in this house, but if you're asking if I'm ready for the Christmas special, then absolutely.
That's exactly what I was gearing us up for.
Okay, so I think what Tracy's trying to tell us in a not-so-subtle way is that the Christmas special podcast today is based well and truly in the Netherlands.
Indeed, this year we are heading virtually, of course, to the beautiful city of Rotterdam. And our Christmas special guest is none other than a global leader in pediatric IBD, the incoming chair of the Porto IBD group of ESPGHAN, Professor Lissy De Ridder.
Whew, finishing the year strong. So it goes without saying, but Professor De Ridder is a giant of the pediatric IBD world, and I'm sure our listeners will remember we talked about her in our episode with Prof. Richard Russell, the current chair of the Porto group.
Exactly, and honestly, having Professor De Ridder join us feels like a perfectly timed gift from Sinterklaas himself. And let's be clear, Sinterklaas is absolutely not Santa Claus. Completely different guy, different vibe, different hat. So, are we ready to unwrap the conversation?
Yeah, okay, let's do it before you start practicing your Dutch again.
With the sparkling festive spirit in Rotterdam's Christmas fair and the sweet scent of oliebollen and stroopwafels drifting through the air, delightful listeners, please be aware the towering pIBD legend Dr. Lissy De Ridder is right here within our stare, a global leader in research and IBD care. So please welcome the brilliant and soon-to-be ESPGHAN's dynamic IBD chair.
Welcome to the podcast. We're honoured.
Me too, actually.
Hi Lissy, thanks for joining.
Hi, thank you.
Lissy, with my Christmas hat on, the first question. Now, in the Netherlands, writing rhyming poems is basically a competitive sport around Sinterklaas, and I hear that he's already come and gone this year on the 5th of December, and this raises an important question. So what happens to the other Santa, the one we are familiar with in the UK and everywhere else? Do Santa Claus and Sinterklaas acknowledge each other in passing, a polite nod, an awkward wave, or do they just quietly pretend the other one doesn't exist and avoid eye contact altogether?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it's really for the Dutch insiders. So Sinterklaas is a Dutch tradition, and in the couple of weeks before the 5th of December, all small children are really looking forward to Sinterklaas coming, because he's the one that brings the presents. Indeed, at 5th December, he leaves. And then, of course, we look forward to Santa Claus. And then Santa Claus is very welcome too, but not as much bringing the presents.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That was probably Tracy's sort of the question Tracy was most excited about, I think. So it's nice to get that one out of the way. It's obviously an honor to have you with us. And we actually had quite a long debate about what we should talk about today. Many topics. And in the end, we weren't able to choose one topic. So if it's okay with you, this will be a sort of pre-Christmas, post-Christmas double-header podcast. But before we get into the technical bits, we thought, as always, it's good to get to know our guests. So you wear several hats. You are pediatric gastroenterologist, academic, researcher, and as we've heard, a world leader in pediatric IBD. But my question to you is, where do you get the energy to do all of that from? What's your driving force, your enthusiasm for pediatric gastro?
Yeah, so thank you so much for that question. So actually that is easy because if you see patients, then there are still so many unmet needs and so many things that can be improved. That is really my driver, what keeps me going. That and also the combination with the younger ones, trainees, fellows, etc., that are eager to learn. So that is also an aspect that I like a lot in my daily job.
That's amazing. Thank you. And before we dive any deeper, we would love to hear how you got to where you are today. Can you walk us through your training pathway, what your training journey looked like?
Yeah, so first I wanted to become a pediatrician, probably familiar to many of us. And then when I was at the end of my pediatric training period, one of my tutors was pediatric gastroenterologist, and he got me involved in the field. And then in the university hospital where I did my training, there was room for someone who was specializing in pediatric inflammatory bowel disease. So I started to work in that field, and it really struck me how much we still do not know. And this is a while ago, but unfortunately, I think the same is still true. There's still so much to be discovered and to be improved. So yeah, and it's a very dynamic field where you can also bring a lot to the patient. So that combination is, really very nice. So that is how I first deliberately chose for the pediatric field, but ended up in the pediatric IBD field.
It's amazing how often, well, I think everyone that we've asked that question to talks about their mentors and the people that they saw before them doing the specialty and kind of follow their path, I guess. So that's something, as you said, that's why you like gastro, because you get to be that person for someone else now, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yes, I hope so.
Yes, I'm sure. Now we know you have a distinguished career and you're about to step into the role of the chair of ESPGHAN IBD Porto group. I'm not sure if you had a chance to listen to the episode a few weeks ago with Professor Richard Russell.
I did. Enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, great. Thank you. Now for the Richard Russell episode, we rolled out the bagpipes to honor his Scottish roots. Today I did consider doing something similar for you, but I got a bit stuck trying to figure out what the Dutch equivalent of bagpipes might be.
I don't think we have a very Dutch instrument, actually.
The bicycle.
The bicycle, yeah, with the bell, bicycle bells ringing. That would be nice.
Yeah, we can go with that.
Yeah, maybe I should have thought about that. Anyway, so Richard Russell spoke very positively about his successor, which is you. He mentioned that your leadership will bring a unique perspective to the whole group. So how do you see yourself shaping this role, and what will your key priorities be when you take it on?
Yeah, so that's really rising to the expectations. I had a really great people before me, like Richard Russell and therefore Dan Turner. So actually I'm humble, and I will just do my best. I'm really very honored and keen to continue the Porto group, because it's a very special group. The members that are within the Porto group, and also all the members around it in the special interest group, cover a huge area and also bring a lot of expertise. So being the chair of that group, is really superb, because hopefully it will give the chance to even bring the group further ahead.
So let's get into things, if that's okay. So you're internationally recognized for your leadership, particularly in pediatric IBD trials, it's fair to say. So today's episode, or the first episode, focuses specifically on what we would call investigator-initiated trials. For our listeners, would you be able to explain what we mean when we say investigator-initiated clinical trials, or IITs, and how do they differ from, I suppose, industry-sponsored trials? Why are they crucial for advancing care, particularly in pediatric IBD?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So especially the investigator-initiated trials, they answer the really relevant questions, because they are our questions, while the industry-sponsored trials really focus on having the drug registered for the use of pediatric use, which is also very important. While in investigator-initiated trials, it is possible to actually really dive into the details much more, and really also usually find the answer to more questions than only one.
Perfect. Okay, my next question, pediatric trials. These are a whole different ballgame, as you know, and they come with their own ethical and practical challenges. From your experience, when you set up investigator-initiated trials in pediatric IBD, what are the biggest hurdles that you've come across? Is it regulatory, recruitment, consent, or something else entirely?
Yeah, so there are many extra challenges, as you already alluded to. One of the challenges is that the funding that is available for an investigator-initiated trial usually is less, or even much less, than the industry-sponsored trials. And to get the numbers of patients that you need to really be able to do the trial in a good way, you need a lot of centers. So you need many people that are really keen to collaborate and on a daily basis spend time and effort to manage the trial. The good thing is that actually many pediatric gastroenterologists are willing to make that extra mile. So once you get started and you are working on these kind of efforts as a team, that also brings energy. So on the one hand, it's a challenge, but it's also it gives something extra once you are going on.
Sounds like funding is the biggest hurdle. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, so actually that is one of the biggest challenges. So get enough funding and get all those people in all those centers on track.
And do you think the ethical committees might be kinder towards investigator-initiated trials compared to pharma-sponsored trials?
Yeah, so of course the ethical issues can be challenging, but in my experience they are realistic and they are there for a reason. So usually by understanding why issues are there, and sometimes if there are questions, just go there or call what is going on, then usually it is fair, and it is just able to do it in the proper way, in my experience.
And of course, with the best will in the world, recruitment in pediatric studies in general, including IBD, has always been and probably always will be difficult. It would be great to pick your brain to find out what approaches you found most effective when engaging children, but also their families and those clinical teams around you that you desperately need to participate in order to recruit enough patients to the trial.
Yeah, so then it is important that it also benefits the patients and the families. And actually, I think that for an investigator-initiated trial, because it's the investigator group that designs the trial, then there will also be a potential benefit for the family. Otherwise, the trial would not be performed. And if you are able to really explain that well and take the time to explain that and to answer the questions, etc., then many families actually are very open to really take part in that trial.
I can see you're going to be persuasive, that really selling it to the patients because of the clinical need is one thing, but also being able to deliver that and tell them about it passionately, I suppose, is another thing.
Yeah, and in an investigator-initiated trial, it's usually combined with multiple layers of research, for example, translational research, or pharmacokinetics, or maybe health economics. It can be several things. It usually really brings the field ahead with the most important questions experienced by the physicians and also by the family. So that's really good.
Amazing, thank you. Now, most clinicians are rich in ideas but rather poor in manpower. And there's a well-known saying that the harvest is big, but the workers are few. I can see that you clearly run a thriving research group, but most clinicians would struggle to find research or clinical fellows to take their projects forward. How do you manage that? Does every junior doctor who wanders through your clinical or research door gets gently or not so gently roped into a research project?
Yeah, so we really do that as a group. So obviously, I usually am the principal investigator, but I have many people around me that are the daily drivers of several projects, and they also have students, etc., who are joining them. So it's really a group effort that goes step by step, then there are a lot of opportunities. So it's also up to the people in the research team what they can get out of it. So if you are willing to put more energy in things, then you will also get more out of it. So by doing it in that way, it's extra rewarding to really get involved, I would say.
Absolutely. Now, whilst we are on the topic of research fellows, we recently had one of your research fellows, Stephanie, in our IBD genomics research group for a few weeks.
Ah, yes. Very nice.
Yeah, and she was lovely.
Yeah, and that's also because the young research curriculum of ESPGHAN facilitated her to come to your place.
Right.
So for her, it's a great opportunity to see how things are going in another center while taking care of actually the same kind of patients.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, if I circle back to our recent conversation with Professor Richard Russell, we explored the FDA's stance on extrapolating data from adult trials to pediatric populations and the challenge of those long delays before kids with IBD get access to licensed therapies. And the gap between adult and pediatric licensed therapies can be 10 years or longer. From your perspective, could investigator-initiated trials help close this gap? Do you see them as a practical way to accelerate access to newer treatments for children with IBD?
Yeah, so I think they can definitely be of help to close the gap, because with the current system, with every new drug coming to the market and getting approval for the use in adults, then going for a pediatric investigation plan, having to enroll over 100 of pediatric IBD patients is just not feasible. So we have to be much smarter, and we can do smarter by actually many changes. And one of the things is the extrapolation of patients above 12 years old or above 40 kilos. So I fully agree with what Richard told in the previous podcast. And if you use extrapolation and you do investigator-initiated trials, and you can demonstrate that what you hypothesize indeed is correct, then it really can help to speed up and bring the drugs much earlier to the market than is currently the case.
And there are obviously many international networks in pediatric IBD nowadays, much more than perhaps there were 20, 30 years ago, or at least more established than they were. Pediatric Echo, ESPGHAN, Canadian groups, and ESPGHAN as well. So when you look at those now evolving societies and groups, there doesn't seem to be an obvious structure that links them with clinical trials. I suppose an important question maybe to nearly close on is, as the incoming chair of the Porto IBD working group, do you see strengthening cross-society collaboration, especially around clinical trials, as an important thing to do maybe in the next 10 years?
Yeah, so if we manage to take that step, that would be really good news. But I do think it's challenging. So we recently worked together as ESPGHAN and as NESPGHAN on the paper on extrapolation to close the gap to the drug development and the authorization of the drugs. And then the systems of ESPGHAN and NESPGHAN are different, and before you have these processes aligned, that takes time, and it works, but it does take time. And if you perform your clinical trials, then so many processes have to be aligned that I think it takes a while before we are there. Having said that, if you collect real-world data, that is also very important to bring the field ahead. That is much easier to join forces. And that is something that we are actually already doing. So in Europe, we have the Inception cohort, the pIBD set quality Inception cohort. The UK is very active in that study too, with Nick Croft being the other PI next to me. And in Canada, they run a similar Inception cohort that actually started before our Inception cohort. And one of my PhD students has been to Canada for a couple of months, just as Stephanie went to your place. And when he was in Canada, he really merged those databases. And by doing so, you really have a large number of patients. And it was also very interesting to see how comparable the patients actually were in Canada and to the UK and the Netherlands. So I think that is really something we can do from today. And if we get better in that, and that is more regular, then the next step would be the clinical trials.
Nice. Now, I know you're involved in several trials at the moment, but for our listeners, could you give an example of an investigator-initiated trial that you're currently working on?
Yeah, so at the moment, we are really wrapping up a 5 years follow-up of the TISCITS randomized controlled trial. So TISCITS trial is a randomized controlled trial comparing first-line infliximab and azathioprine maintenance treatment in moderate to severe new onset pediatric Crohn's disease patients. The other arm is conventionally treated, and that's really conventionally treated because the trial started a while ago as we are collating the 5 years follow-up now. So the conventional arm patients are treated with exclusive enteral nutrition or prednisolone to induce remission, and then they also continue azathioprine maintenance. By wrapping up the 5 years follow-up data now, you really have so many long-term high-quality data. And within the trial, we were able to study the pharmacokinetics, proteomics, the cost effectiveness. So actually that is a good example of the big yield of an investigator-initiated trial.
Yes, thank you. Now, looking back at the Porto Group's consensus guideline that we discussed before, it seems that investigator-initiated trials could provide an ideal platform for pharmacokinetic studies in pIBD. Would that be the case, you think?
Yeah, so the pharmacokinetic studies, especially in pediatrics, are very important because the younger and the lower the weight of our patient is, or the body surface area, the bigger differences within the pharmacokinetics are there. So that is much more important to be closely studied than the pharmacodynamics overall.
Thanks, Lissy. I just want to say thank you because it wasn't that long ago that I was interviewing for my gastro training, and we have sort of 4 domains that you get asked questions on, and one of them was, have you read anything interesting in research lately? And your paper had just been published on first-line use of infliximab versus conventional therapy, so I sort of waxed lyrical about Dr. De Ridder and her work, so thank you very much.
Oh, that is very nice.
And that's why he's probably here now.
And yeah.
That is very nice, actually, to hear that. So
it's a full circle moment, hey?
Yeah, I can understand it. So for the TISCITS trial, I think it's also interesting to see that a couple of years after TISCITS, there was a profile study in adult patients, higher number of patients, okay. But actually the concept and the conclusion is quite the same. So sometimes the lessons are first to be learned within pediatrics.
There you go.
So, Lissy, that was a great discussion, getting a peek into the world of investigator-initiated trials in pediatric IBD through your lens, which was fascinating. Now, I'm sure our listeners have enjoyed tuning in with a bit of Christmas cheer, maybe a mince pie in one hand and a stroopwafel in the other. Thank you so much for your time. Speak to you soon for the next episode. But for now, have a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Enjoy Christmas and Happy New Year to you too.
My dear folks, hope you've enjoyed the episode. And sure, so before we wrap up, Dr. Tracy Coelho has written a heartfelt poem for me. This poem is a tribute to children and patients living with IBD. He has asked me to recite the poem, but I'm a little busy with the last bites of my mince pie. And of course the stroopwafel from Dr. Lissy De Ridder. Oh, really delicious. So, I'll kindly let him take the honors.
All right, So for a moment, I pretend to be Santa so that you can get on with your mince pie and stroopwafel. Is that correct?
Yes, I've already said that, so fire away.
All right, thank you. When soreness reigns in its flaring gear, with cramps and pains stealing all festive cheer, I know a Christmas carol or a thoughtful wish from far or near is but so distant and not a real joy to the year. And I know beleaguered hope sees no dawn of a brighter day. But my child, though the tools of remission are not always stocked up in my sleigh, this is what your clever doc has to say. The new medicine has helped so many that the inflamed bowels dare not disobey. So as the good tidings of remission trickle in day after day, your magical smile will soon be on its way. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, ho ho ho, Merry Christmas.